I think nowadays being a generalist in a lot of cases might be better than being a expert in one specific vertical, just because you have access to so many, hell, like Cloud Code, for instance, where it is an expert in all of those things. And so by you having broader knowledge of a bunch of different areas, it makes you more well-rounded to where you can just like get more done faster, more efficiently, because you have like literally the little experts at your fingertips to do all of the details for you.
Yeah, 100% agree. I definitely agree with that. And also, I think when you're meeting so many different companies on a daily basis, it's great to have that kind of wide knowledge where you can, just kind of like have a conversation about a lot of things.
So the full phrase, if you want it, is a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. Hey, well, welcome to the podcast. Welcome back, everyone. We got Keith, who's going to give us a little intro to himself. He's a new employee at Succession. But as always, we're going to make him start with the horrific question of tell us a funny or crazy story you've got.
Well, great. Thanks for the intro, Nick. And also thanks very much for throwing this question on me just 2 seconds ago. So I appreciate that. Off the top of my head, of course, trying to keep it some bit respectable as well. I can probably think back to maybe the first time I did like a sales trip from my previous role. So, I was working as a sales rep for a US company. I got to make the big on-site trip, to a couple of healthcare facilities in Houston. But no one told me in advance that Houston was like crazy, crazy hot in July. So, of course, I didn't prepare well. And let's just say my Irish skin didn't do very well walking around the streets of Houston. So I came back with quite a bad sunburn.
That's pretty rough. Houston's hot this summer. Also muggy too.
Yeah, roasting. I think it was like more than 40 degrees for 10 days straight.
I think that's like around 100 for American listeners.
Yeah.
I just want to make the joke of Houston, Keith has a problem, but
I had a big... Yeah, I landed into a few healthcare facilities looking pretty red, I have to say.
They probably thought you were embarrassed.
Yeah, they just thought I was embarrassed, like constantly embarrassed.
That's it. Well, I know we wanted to pull this one together and get you on here. It's been about a month now, so kind of talk through, your learnings. But maybe before we get through all of that, we'd love to maybe have you share some of your background with the audience and kind of how you came about finding Succession.
Perfect. Yeah, well, I think now it's like, yeah, it'll be the end of the 4th week today. So, it could be the end of the 4th year, judging by how quick it's gotten so far. But yeah, so far it's been super good. But I suppose to track back a bit, I think like the rest of the Succession team, I think, I've started off, by studying a science degree, then worked in industry for a while and kind of, a bit slowly drifted towards like a more commercial role that is kind of a bit more aligned with my personality. As regard to my degree, I studied biochemistry at a university in Ireland, University of Limerick. And then after I worked kind of in several different industries. I worked in the food industry for a while in a R&D role. I worked in pharmaceutical excipients, and then probably my longest stint was with Regeneron in a production role as well, upstream production for biopharmaceuticals. So kind of a jack of all trades, a master of none. But I think now it's really good to have that wide knowledge, especially trying to help different companies in the role with Succession.
Yeah. Jack of all trades is a good thing. That phrase is always used wrong, apparently. There's a second part to it, and it is a jack of all trades is better than a master of none.
Jamie, pull that up. We got to get...
I mean, to be fair, like I think nowadays being a generalist in a lot of cases might be better than being a expert in one specific vertical, just because you have access to so many like Cloud Code, for instance, where like it is an expert in all of those things. And so by you having broader knowledge of a bunch of different areas, it makes you more well-rounded to where you can just like get more done faster, more efficiently because you have like literally the little experts at your fingertips to do all of the the details for you.
Yeah, 100% agree. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
And also I think when you're meeting so many different companies on a daily basis, it's great to have that kind of wide knowledge where you can, just kind of like have a conversation about a lot of things.
So the full phrase, if you want it, is a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one.
There we go.
So then, so I know when we first started talking, before you even joined, one of the things you were talking about and kind of what got us excited about you as a candidate was that you were already really thinking about noticing these trends within the market around go to market and noticing how challenging it was, how tools and systems and processes were changing. And that was kind of already leading you down the path that you wanted to go. So we'd love to maybe hear, how did you sort of like identify that trend? Like what made you kind of notice that and pick it out? And then also like, why did you then decide like, this is where I want to focus my effort rather than going down a traditional sales role?
Yeah, just I don't know if what you said. One of the things you said in the interview that stood out to me, that specifically around that, was that your view was a sales team in the future will have a couple of like sales ops people running stuff and a couple of amazing closers, and that's what a sales team will end up looking like.
100%. I mean, we're definitely like in a time of serious change in all career paths, but I think especially sales. But from my point of view, after I kind of moved out of the industrial roles, I then went into like a very, traditional SDR type of role, kind of do your 80 calls a day or we'll see ya, or there's the door. So, I started doing that and, it's a great learning experience, but then probably around, I guess maybe 18 months ago or so, I think like everybody else, I started seeing so many stuff popping up on LinkedIn, so many stuff like outbound 2.0, how sales is changing. And then like that really piqued my curiosity because I think it's like, it is, there's now this great intersection between like people who are some bit technically minded, but also people who are like, very sales educated and commercial minded also. So on the back of that, I started reading a bit, started trying to make my own kind of ramshackle, AI workflows in my day to day. And, I got on the free Clay account and started playing around. I think I remember pulling like a Clay workbook of like independent record labels in the UK and just like playing around. And I think I wrote in the newsletter last week, that it's like just like follow your own curiosity and kind of get involved. And I think that's the best way to learn some of these different tech options that are out there in this day and age.
Yeah, so you were reaching out to record labels, huh? I guess.
I didn't do any.
I didn't do a shout out to your Give a shout out for your music. Come on.
I did. I did. So we're shameless self promotion, but I actually didn't mean to do that.
Do we need to check out the API tokens and how many you're going to use?
Flip the podcast around.
He joined for the free Clay credits.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, I obviously totally agree. Part of the reason we started the company was exactly with that philosophy around, how can you do more with less? How can you leverage tools, automation, AI, workflows to just be as efficient and effective as possible? And I should say, like those two things are very different, right? Like being efficient and being effective. If you're efficient, but it's crap, that's not going to work, right? So I could click a button and launch a bunch of crap, but that's not going to be effective. It's not going to drive results. And I think those two things go hand in hand. And so when people, I think about leveraging AI or any sort of automation, they go to the first thought in their mind is like crap, right? Like it goes to like, this is like, if I automate this or if I use AI, it's not going to be good quality. And then on the flip side, then you have the people who are like, cool, but I'm going to be so effective and I'm going to be like hyper surgical and I'm going to like prospect very, effectively, but then they can't get anything done. So there really is that happy medium, and like you have to like really work with AI, and you really have to train it and mold it, build the right automations, know the right logic. It takes a lot of time, honestly, to like get it to work right, but that stuff is where it's really critical.
100%. And I mean, even by my own lived experience, I can definitely say, I probably had to make a lot of mistakes to improve and to upskill myself to be able to use AI a bit more effectively in outbounding.
I think for me, the biggest game change in this kind of approach that AI brings is actually you can use the same AI you're using to develop the workflows to teach you how to develop the workflows. So if you're sitting there thinking, I want to build something, but I don't know where to start, you start with the AI, GPT or Claude or whatever, and you go into it and you're like, I want to build this thing, and you brain dump. Walk me through how I'd set this up step by step. And every time you hit a snag, like it says, oh, now you need an API. Oh, I don't know what an API is or where to find it. Okay, cool. Tell me how I'd get an API and what I should do. And it will walk you through every single step of the process. When I started this, I had very little knowledge around any of those things, and I've gradually built that. I'm lucky that I got people around me that have more of that knowledge as well. But now the stuff I can do is now mediocre, right? So it's like incredible. No, but joking aside, we can build things from start to finish that I didn't even know half of the words involved in what I ask it to do now when I started, but I've been taught by the systems I'm using. And I think that's you don't have that bottleneck of, okay, I'm going to need to go to Google and read everything I need. You can actually you can skip past some of the knowledge you don't need by just getting it to walk you through the steps.
Yeah, I agree. And I think as well, like one thing I was really surprised by, in the last 4 weeks is like, I think it's probably the advantage of being a small company is, like how quickly we're able to roll out and how quickly we're able to iterate these type of internal solutions that, are, easily cutting hours out of, our week that we can, then commit to other tasks that involve using our human brain, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like even last week, I remember you and Jess having like the app off in the Friday meeting over whose app that they built during the week was better.
Yeah. It was mine, but yeah.
No comment.
Oh, we'll let the people decide when it's somewhere else.
Yeah. No, I think she wins this one, if I'm honest. It was good. Yeah. Look out for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it, like, to kind of touch on that a little bit more, it's like what you sometimes have to do. It's hard to always, unless you're on the cutting edge, realize what's possible. And so what I always recommend to people, because I watch and listen to pretty much everything AI related all the time, like what's coming out, what's new, and I'm trying to tinker with it. But that's also like what my job is basically. Whereas most people have full-time jobs, they still have to get their stuff done. They don't have your time necessarily to be tinkering and playing with tools to kind of figure out what works. And so what I always recommend is just kind of lay out like a couple of low-hanging fruit options. It's like, what are two things that are just sticking points where you're like, hey, if I had a magical wand and I could automate this, or I could make this faster and more efficient, more effective, whatever, then like just write down what those things are, brain dump it into a Claude or ChatGPT, whatever, or Copilot, whatever you're using, and like have it walk you through step by step how to build an automation, how to write the correct prompt, and then just go and do it. And then that will give you two quick wins right away. They're going to save you a bunch of time around things. And then from there, you'll have a better idea how to work with these systems to then where you can start to expand those use cases as you understand how they work, how they function, et cetera.
I also think one of the easiest ways to start is assume you can make some assumptions. Like I often will start with the easiest prompt I can write. Like do this thing for me, and then see what the output's like. And maybe it was good enough for what I wanted. Maybe it needs a lot more input. And sometimes you can just start, but rather than worrying about every single detail of what you need to do the thing, just start. And in that, so I treat it like a conversational colleague, and you'll get to the end point you need eventually.
Yeah, I mean, even one super quick prompt framework that I use a lot just because it's so simple is like it's like the race one. So it's like role, action, context, and execution. And it's super quick, and I think it just helps you like structure how you're working with AI so much better.
Yeah, walk me through that. So it was role.
So yeah, it's role. So you say, for example, like you are expert marketer with 10 years experience, something like that. You put the AI, I think we've all seen the stuff like, you have 20,000 years of experience in writing. So yeah, you put the model into the mind frame of what it's supposed to be, what it's supposed to act like. Then you give the actual action, what you want to achieve with the prompt, whether that be an email or a list or to double check something, and then some background context, what you're working on. If you have any examples, this is a great time to put in those examples of what you think the output should look like, and then execute. That's like more of like your formatting and how you would like to receive the output from the AI, and it's super quick. And I do think if you can just have these like simple things in your workflow, you're easily beating 80-90% of a lot of people who are just using it, using the technology quite basically.
I mean, most people use it like Google, and they just ask it a question, it responds, and then they're done. Or they don't like the answer, or they assume something's not right, and they just move on. Like, yeah.
I think it's the opposite of the jack of all trades, right? The more specific you can be with a task, and then you want to build on those tasks sequentially with more specific tasks, I think you get a better output than when you ask for very broad, general overview.
You know what though? I actually sometimes, I feel like nowadays, I sometimes disagree, but I think it depends on the use case. Because sometimes if you get too specific, it has your like biases and heuristics like plugged into how you would think about the process. And I find myself doing this too, where I'm trying to like put together a workflow or something, or build something with Cloud Code. Is like I have a heuristic in my head of how I think it should work, and sometimes I find myself being too prescriptive, and then maybe that's not the best output. Where sometimes if you are less prescriptive, you might get like a result, and it's like, wow, I didn't even like think of that. Like I was working on this database thing the other day, and I was like, instead of saying like, hey, here are the things I want on the dashboard, I was like, go build the dashboard. Like you have access to all of the data in the database. Go and figure out what are the most important things. And it created this like sentiment analysis that like looked at companies and all of the news related to them over the last couple of months, and then like scored them on sentiment. And I'm like, I never would have thought of that. Like kind of cool. And it made like this like keyword cloud of like trending topics of going up and down. I'm like, that's kind of cool too. So like some things that you just wouldn't think about if you're trying to get too prescriptive, it can be cool. It can be a good way to like let it go wild.
Yeah.
But when it comes to messaging, don't do that.
No, I think that the thing is there, you're already within a niche. You already know it's coding, you know it's doing a task. You didn't say, build me a platform. Like there's already a lot of specifics assumed within that. And I think that's why it works. So
That's fair.
become broad within a frame of specifics. Quick random
platform. Build me a platform, make no mistakes.
But quick random question, Harrison. I think I know what your answer will be, but I'm not sure for you, Nick. Favorite AI tool that we use, or that that you use on a daily basis?
Well, if you had asked me like 2 weeks ago, I would have said Clay, probably. However, now it is strictly like Cloud Code, specifically the custom plugin that we've built that we can use internally. And it does everything. It is absolutely magic. And like the speed at which you could build this stuff, like building custom skills within Claude, which is basically like the business logic. So then it just like follows your business logic. It understands all of the context. You can just literally connect it to every other tool with, APIs. It is insane. I can't even like fathom what this would have been like 3 years ago to try and figure out. It just wasn't possible. Like the things we're able to do now wouldn't even be possible before. It's like,
this wasn't possible 6 months ago because we spoke about he said perfect. Like,
yeah, that's true. I think, yeah, I agree. The thing that I think is the most interesting to me though, is that it's enabling us to do stuff that we wouldn't even have been able to do before, right? Like it's just, these are tasks that just wouldn't have gotten done, or it's analysis that wouldn't have been run. And now it's just automated, and now like all of this is just flowing into us on like a proactive basis rather than being reactive. And I think there's just so much cool stuff that you could do with this here. And honestly, I think more companies need to just enable their team to do this, and you know, stop worrying about what tools they use.
So I would say if I asked you 2 weeks ago, you should have said clay, because I'm definitely still in my honeymoon period with clay for sure.
Yeah.
Like, because I was trying to use it, as I said, all along, but now like to be using it properly, like I'm still like, really enjoying that, and trying to get as creative as possible by using it.
Yeah.
So my answer is slightly different to Harrison's, only for the reason that I'm thinking about the listener. So what Harrison just said is cool, but he's like the culmination of all of us thinking about this for 2 years and what we could do and the technology catching up with our ideas. So it's kind of like a big leap. One of the new things I've started using in Claude and using it for that I think can be game changer for anyone is something called an artifact. So if you have an idea in Claude, you go off and say, build me an artifact and talk about that idea. So maybe it's a business plan, maybe it's an idea for an app that's going to do something in
Could be a
Replit.
territory plan, could be a territory plan, could be account research, could be account research, all that. Yeah.
An ROI calculator specific for your business needs, anything like that. But you do it and ask it to do an artifact, and then it will generate you that artifact, that thing you can use. It's like a little web page, basically. And you now have that asset that you needed, and you have it in 20 minutes of a conversation with Claude. And even if it isn't 100% perfect, what's great about it is you can use it, go, this is amazing, show it to your team, your line manager or your IT person and say, I did this for me. Can you build this with code or vibe coding for us? And I think that it is a really quick way to either build something that's useful for you, or alternatively build a prototype that somebody can make and render more relevant for you. That's what I think is a really good
cool. It's like the other kind of use case there for those people that are using like HubSpot, and your team will let you connect your HubSpot MCP, or let you connect Claude to your HubSpot via MCP, because there's a plugin for it if you didn't know. So you should ask your team about that. Is you could then ask HubSpot some sort of questions about your CRM, about your data, about pipeline report, next steps that you recommend, whatever it is, and then just tell Claude to make an artifact of it. And it'll just make a sort of interactive like pipeline review or interactive account coverage map, whatever you're looking for. And yeah, it's pretty powerful from that perspective, to your point.
And I think it's a really easy thing to do. You literally download Claude, start using it, ask it to build an artifact, tell it, and you'll see the output straight away. Whereas the other thing, what Harrison's saying, is my favorite tool, but takes quite a bit of implementation to get to that point.
I'm surprised it's not Replit.
Well, that was my phase 2 of Replit's great for visualizing something that's amazing like that. Yeah.
But Replit, you built it in Replit, right? So you built that.
Yeah, I used the artifact to give me the prototype of something, and then I went and built it in Replit as a full app. Coming soon, Event Navigator.
Sky is the limit.
Yeah. Yeah, we've gone down a couple rabbit holes. We never even got to so Keith, the first month.
Extreme tangent, but I was just flowed it.
How's yeah, like I guess I'd be kind of curious to hear your thoughts around before you came in, what you were expecting, and now that you're here, how does it feel?
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things as well. It's like you're always going to have a preconceived idea in your head of how something is going to be, and then like usually once you encounter that situation, it's always totally different. And that definitely holds true for probably the last couple of weeks for me. But yeah, so I mean, I think probably the main thing that I realized is just like how complex some of the campaigns are, that we're building, especially in Clay. They have so many layers, and then like, to see like some of the signal triggered campaigns and stuff like that. And then like also just to see, I think the amount, like, the amount of different tech that we're using that is also feeding into Clay, because we've 4 or 5, softwares just for list building, so I think like that's one thing that surprised me that I didn't really think about before I started. All along in my career in sales, I was either using just Apollo or just Zoom Info or something like that. And then like to see it all come together and to see even something like a waterfall enrichment, for me, that's still super impressive that's just at the click of a button, and you can have a number of data providers just feeding in.
Well, it's actually about 10 different tools, but you haven't got to month to unlock yet.
Yeah. I got to level up.
Yeah, they're gated.
I have to collect more XP points.
You got to accept your GitHub invite.
Yeah. I did. I just created the account.
There we go.
Great.
That's good. I think you're probably a good person to ask here because you are sort of the newest into this, coming from your previous world of doing this. You're sort of, I'd call it like the old school way or the classic way, right? Which is, if you had to give a couple people out there advice that are maybe they're not even using Apollo, or and maybe they are, but like, what kind of things would you tell them as like a starting point? It's like V1, go kind of think about these things.
Perfect. Well, I mean, another bit of a shameless self-promotion. I think the newsletter article that we wrote last week, I think that's a good starting point because it breaks down, list building, a sequencer, clay, and everything, and just have a little read about all the different parts and pick a couple of things and just play around with them. Use the free accounts. I mean, use what's out there. Don't break the bank, and let your own curiosity be the driving force. Watch. There's a lot of brilliant people creating on YouTube as well, and you can go down some rabbit holes. So I would, just start, like, instead of just reading stuff on LinkedIn and being like, oh, that's cool, like, just go and actually check it out. And you know what, like, you start, and like, kind of like what Nick said as well, use AI to guide you as well. If you don't understand something, just ask it. If you don't understand the response, ask it again. Be like, explain it in more simple language.
I think one thing that's really important, what you just said, is rather than just reading stuff that you see on LinkedIn, or just like even just reading the newsletter that you put out, it's the time from reading to action. And I'll toot my own horn on this one, because earlier today I was on X, where formerly known as Twitter, which is where all of the like AI stuff, like everything in AI happens first on Twitter. So if I understand why you may not want to be on Twitter for many reasons, because there's a lot of stuff on there. However, if you want to be on the bleeding edge of AI stuff, that's where you got to be. Where I saw this guy put this post out about how they made a Slack automation to where if they react to a post, it triggers like some workflows in them for like, I don't know I can't remember what they were doing with it, but that gave me the idea, like, oh, we should do that. So I literally now have, within 30 minutes, built a mini workflow that will, anytime I react with a message or a specific reaction to a Slack message, it will go and create a client task for us to go and take action on. So like now, instead of having to like copy, paste, do a bunch of work that way, you simply just react to the post and it creates that little automation. Now,
the world we live in, where copy and paste is too much. Like, fuck that. I ain't doing that. I want to emoji this shit and have it in the
emoji. It goes from emoji to task. Yes.
If I can't emoji life, I ain't doing it. Is that right?
At one point, you're just going to look at a Slack message and it's going to be able to create a task.
Yeah.
Just to see it.
I mean, technically, kind of already exists, right?
Yeah.
When we get to, as soon as you have Neuralink implanted in our brain, like this stuff is going to be so much easier. Like, I can't wait. I won't even have to use. So like,
all right, so we all know you already have it.
I just want to point out.
Look, so here's the transition. We used to have to type. Now we use whisper flow. So now we just talk to our computer and it does it for us. In the future with Neuralink, we'll just have to look at it and think, and it's just going to do stuff.
Is it? For anyone listening who hates AI, the next episode will not be as tech-borry. We'll get back to the science.
Will we? I don't know. Maybe we will. All right, Keith. Well, yeah, it's been good. We're up on time. Pumped to have you here on the team. Really excited. Work you've already done in the first month is amazing, and excited to see what you can bring to the team going forward.
Yeah.
100%. Thank you so much. And yeah, good to have the chat. And I hope everyone listening enjoyed.